There's a question sitting at the centre of the Iran war that has not been fully answered yet. Not who is winning or losing, not what happens to Iranian oil, a more fundamental question. Can the rest of the world hold its nerve? The United States and Israel launched strikes on Iran 28th of February 2026. They did not ask the rest of the world's permission. They did not wait for a UN mandate. They acted and then turned to their allies and said, "Now we need your help." Since then, Trump has pressured Britain, France, Japan, South Korea, China and others to send warships to the Straits of Hormuz. He has warned that countries which do not help will be remembered. He has implied that NATO itself is at stake. And one by one, the allies have said the same thing. Not that war, not our war, not yet. This video is about that moment, what it means, why it matters, and whether the line being drawn right now will hold. Okay, so I'm going to start with the Strait and why it matters. The Strait of Hormuz is a narrow channel, at its narrowest point about 33 kilometers wide, between Iran and Oman. Approximately 1/5 of the world's oil supply passes through it. Qatar's LNG export terminal sits on its shores. When Iran closes it, and Iran has now closed it, the consequences are not abstract. Energy prices rise immediately, supply chains that depend on Gulf oil face disruption, countries that import Gulf energy, which includes most of Europe, Japan, South Korea and India, face direct economic pressure. The longer the strait stays closed, the more that pressure builds. Iran knows this. The strait closure is not a military act, it's an economic weapon. Iran's military has been severely degraded by the US and Israeli strikes. Its supreme leader was killed on the 28th of February, but its ability to choke global energy markets remains intact, and it's using it. Trump's argument is therefore straightforward. The countries being hurt by the closure should help open it. The countries receiving the argument have a different view of what help would cost.
Some of the countries would be, help. Remember, it only takes a couple of people to screw up the strait, a couple of terrorists. You don't need, their military is defeated, but all you need is a few people dropping mines here and there, and you louse it up. So we need, we are demanding that these countries come in and protect their own territory, because it is their territory. It's a place from which they get their energy, and they should come and they should help us protect it. You could make the case that maybe we shouldn't even be there at all, because we don't need it. We have a lot of oil. We're the #1 producer anywhere in the world times two. By double, at least now I think it's much higher than that. But we do it. It's almost like we do it for a habit. But we also do it for some very good allies that we have.
Next, I'll talk about Starmer's Tightrope. Keir Starmer's position on the Iran war is the most complicated diplomatic balancing act a British Prime Minister has faced in decades. Let me lay out exactly what has happened in sequence. Before the 28th of February, UK moves additional radar, air defence and F-35s to Cyprus bases, deploys Typhoon jets to Qatar, prepares for conflict without committing to it. From the 28th of February, war begins. US and Israel launch strikes. Starmer denies Trump's request to use Diego Garcia in the Indian Ocean and RAF Fairford in Gloucestershire as staging grounds for strikes. Cabinet ministers, including Ed Miliband, Rachel Reeves and Shabana Mahmood, opposed the request at a National Security Council meeting. Starmer says British planes are in the sky for defensive operations only. 1st of March, Starmer reverses. Grants US request to use British bases for defensive strikes on Iranian capabilities. Trump says it's too little too late. The reversal creates a rift that is not fully healed. 3rd of March, Starmer announces deployment of 2 Royal Navy Wildcat helicopters to Cyprus alongside France and Greece. The HMS Dragon destroyer to be relocated from the English Channel to the Eastern Mediterranean to defend Cyprus. UK also shooting down Iranian drones over Qatar, Iraq and Jordan. 5th of March, HMS Prince of Wales aircraft carrier placed on high readiness. Trump publicly dismisses it, saying the US does not need UK carriers and the war is already won. 13th of March, Trump calls on the UK, France, Japan, South Korea and China to send warships to Hormuz. Warns countries that refuse, we will remember. Starmer and Trump speak by phone. Starmer says they discussed the importance of opening the strait. 16th of March, Starmer at Downing Street press conference, we will not be drawn into the wider war, declines to confirm whether Royal Navy warships will be sent to Hormuz, says Hormuz reopening is not a simple task, focuses on domestic energy bill support as his first priority. What that timeline shows is a government that has consistently tried to do things simultaneously, maintain the transatlantic relationship with Washington and avoid being drawn into a war that is deeply unpopular at home and legally contested internationally. The initial refusal on Diego Garcia was significant. It was the first time in decades that a British Prime Minister had publicly refused an American military request. The reversal the following day softened that stand, but the sequence revealed something about where the pressure points are in this government's decision making. We will not be drawn into the wider war, says Keir Starmer at Downing Street press conference 16th of March. This is a clear statement. The question this video cannot yet answer, because the situation is live, is whether it will hold. The Iran war remains largely unpopular in the UK. Starmer's domestic policy on the 16th of March was not military, it was energy bills. He announced Labour's first priority as helping households through soaring energy costs driven by the Hormuz closure. That framing tells you something about where he believes the political pressure is coming from, not from voters demanding military action, from voters feeling the cost of a war they did not choose at their energy meters. So next, Europe's position, united, but for how long? One of the most significant geographical developments of this conflict is not what is happening inside Iran, it is what is happening outside of it. Trump assumed that America's allies would follow. They have not. The United Kingdom, position as of the 17th of March 2026, shooting down Iranian drones defensively, HMS Dragon deployed to the Eastern Europeans to defend Cyprus, declined to commit warships to Hormuz, bases open for defensive operations only. Key statement, we will not be drawn into the wider war, Starmer 16th of March 2026. France's position as of the 17th of March deployed assets to Cyprus alongside the UK and Greece, outright refused Trump's Hormuz warship request, defensive and protective posture only. Key statement, Armed Forces Minister, France will not be drawn into a war led by the United States and Israel. Germany position as of the 17th of March, very sceptical of extending EU ASPID's naval mission to Hormuz, no warship deployment committed. Key statement, Foreign Minister Johann Wadepool, very sceptical extending ASPIDs to Hormuz would improve security. Spain position as of the 17th of March, refused to allow US access to Spanish bases from the start. Defense Minister said, we will never accept any stopgap measures. The objective must be for the war to end now. Japan's position, no naval ships to escort commercial vessels, significant economic exposure given oil dependency. Key statement, no plans to deploy naval ships. Australia's position, no naval deployment, economic dependency on China and geographic distance cited. Key statement, no plans to deploy naval ships. South Korea declined to send naval vessels. Key statement, no warship deployment committed. China's position, named by Trump as a country that should help, has not committed to military action. Key statement, no formal response to the Hormuz request confirmed as of the 17th of March. The pattern across the table is striking. Every major US ally that was asked has declined to offer offensive operations. Most are contributing defensively, protecting their own assets and citizens. None have signed up to Trump's vision of a coalition to force the Strait open by military means. This is not what Trump expected, and his response to it, warning that he will remember, reveals the coercive logic underneath the alliance appeal. This is not a request between partners, it is a demand from a patron to clients, and the clients are for now refusing.
He said, we'd like to send our aircraft carriers. I said, I don't want them after we win the war. I want them before we start the war. So whether we get support or not, but I can say this, and I said it to them, we will remember.
Okay, so Britain's military reality, the say-do gap. There's a harder conversation underneath the diplomatic one, and it's specifically British. When the Iran war began on the 28th of February 2026, there were no British warships in the region for the first time in decades. That is not a tactical decision. It is the consequence of 30 years of defence underfunding by successive governments of both parties. The current picture, according to Foreign Policy's analysis of 9th of March 2026, is this. UK spending as a percentage of GDP, 1.73%. The second lowest in NATO, only Iceland, who has no military, spends less. NATO target is 2%. UK's own commitment is 2.5% by 2027. The next indicator, Type 45 destroyers, total fleet, 6. Britain's most advanced air defence. As of mid-January 2026, only 3 were operational, which is not the same as immediately deployable. The next indicator, major British warships in the Middle East on the 28th of February, 0. First time in decades, 1 minehunter, HMS Milton, was in Bahrain. The next indicator, HMS Dragon deployment timeline, needed maintenance and weapon fitting before sailing. The destroyer sent to defend Cyprus could not depart immediately because it needed to be brought out of maintenance first. HMS Prince of Wales placed on high readiness 5th of March. Trump publicly dismissed it, saying the US does not need UK carriers. The next indicator, Starmer's stated defence priority. No institution more important than the NHS. He said this early in his premiership. The defence budget competes directly with the NHS and welfare spending. The Starmer government has repeatedly said Britain faces imminent threats and that defence investment is urgent. Its own 2025 National Security Strategy warned for the first time in many years that Britain must actively prepare for the possibility of the UK homeland coming under direct threat in a wartime scenario. But the words and the spending do not match. Foreign policy caused this the say-do gap in British defence. The Iran war has put that gap on public display. This matters for the Hormuz question specifically. Starmer has been asked to send warships he arguably cannot spare to defend a strait he did not close for a war he did not start by a president who called his initial caution a betrayal. Can the line hold? Let me bring this together with the question the video started with. Can the world resist being pulled into this war? The short answer as of the 17th of March 2026 is yes, but the pressure is not finished. Every major US ally asked to join the offensive operations has declined. Starmer, Macron, Schultz, the Spanish Defense Minister, Japan, Australia, South Korea, all saying variants of the same thing. We will protect our own people and assets. We will not join your war. That is a more unified allied response than Trump expected, and it is fragile in specific ways. Okay, so where the line could break. The economic pressure is real and will increase. The strait closure is driving up energy prices across Europe. The longer it stays closed, the more domestic political pressure each government is facing to do something. Trump knows this. The closure is his leverage. The we will remember threat is not empty. European security depends on American commitment to NATO, and European rearmament is years away from being self-sufficient. A US administration that decides to reduce its security commitment to allies that refuse Hormuz would create a genuine vulnerability, especially with Russia still at war in Ukraine. And there is the specific British vulnerability. The UK's special relationship with Washington is a genuine strategic asset. Damaging it has real costs. Starmer has already reversed once on the basis. The question is whether the Hormuz pressure produces a second reversal. Where the line is strongest, the Allied refusal is not coming from weakness, it's coming from a shared legal and strategic judgment. Multiple European governments have said the same thing. This is a war of choice, started without consultation, and we will not be obliged to fight it simply because it was started by our largest ally. Spain was bluntest. It was not an alliance that was designed for one of the allies to go to war of choice and then oblige everybody else to follow. That argument, that NATO was not designed for this, is legally sound and politically coherent, and it is being made simultaneously by governments that are not known for coordinating their positions. The unanimity is itself significant. So in closing, a narrow channel, 33 kilometers wide at its narrowest point, 1/5 of the world's oil, and a question that most powerful countries on earth are trying to answer simultaneously. How do you protect your economic interests without fighting somebody else's war? Britain's answer as of today is carefully. Defend what is yours, protect your citizens, shoot down the drones coming at your bases, but do not send warships into the strait and do not join the offensive strikes. Whether that answer survives the pressure being applied to it, economic, diplomatic, and from a US president that says he will remember, is a live question. This channel will be watching. If this video helped you understand what is happening, please like and subscribe. It genuinely helps this channel reach people who want analysis rather than noise. Share if you think somebody else needs to see this. The algorithm rewards the first